Good morning, everyone in the room and everyone online. It's great to have you here today. If you were here a little bit before, I rearranged the furniture. I'm so sorry. I'm really excited to be here today. And you know, when we do these panels, we say, oh, we've got great panels, because that's the right thing you have to say, okay? But we actually do have a really great panel. We genuinely do. And this panel was a hard-fought-for panel, as in there was so much interest in it. And we're following on from quite a deep program over these last few days. And I think there was a 7 a.m. breakfast that this crew were all at. So we're following on from a brilliant moderation by Kevin. So to begin. My name is Caroline Casey. I'm a troublemaker. I'm the founder of the Valuable 500. I've been a long-term partner with the World Economic Forum. But also just to give you a little bit of context of why I moved the furniture. I am also registered blind, so I don't look like I am. So when it comes to questions, you're going to have to use your voice. Let's not be polite. Get up and shout. It also means that I'm going to have to be called to time because I won't be able to see it. And I have also asked our panelists, because I want a conversation, not to be shy about jumping in and to use your voice. So that's all me. I'm setting the ground rules. So I don't want to read out bios because I actually can't read them and I can't see them. And I thought a really good way to bring our panelists into the room is to ask them to introduce themselves and their role and what country they're headquartered in and the countries they're operating in. But I've also asked them to do a bit of audio description. And I think I might have freaked you out a little bit. But audio description, nobody's done it here before. But since the pandemic, right, online, for anybody who's vision impaired or have their video off, it's become a best practice. It's like alt text that we use in Twitter or on Instagram. And it's to help kind of give context to people who don't see in the same way we use captioning for people who are deaf. So let me begin. I'm Irish. I'm 51. I'm a white woman. I've got blonde hair. I'm wearing a mustard turtleneck, polo neck as we say in Ireland, gold boots and a ludicrously velvet red suit, very tactile. So that is me. So that's me into the room. And over to you, Alex.
Alex Liu. I'm managing partner and chairman of Kearney, which is a global consulting company. I'm based in California, as you might tell from my slight American accent. We have 40 offices, 5,000 folks around the world. I am Chinese American. I think I'm also a troublemaker, like
I
yourself.
think we probably all are.
So born in Taiwan, but I'm American and baby boomer. I just came back from a Mexico holiday, so I have the residual tan of that, and I'm in a blue suit.
How funny that. Thank you. Ebru.
My name is Ebru Özdemir. I'm Turkish. I live in Turkey. I'm chairing a company called Limak in engineering, energy, construction, and hotels. I am not as blonde as Caroline, but I'm blonde. I'm wearing a light blue jacket with navy pants, and I'm wearing glasses now. I'm 49, and my glasses and my frames are red.
Thank you. Milton.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm Milton Cheng. I'm the global chair of Baker McKenzie, which is a global law firm. We don't have a head office. We have offices in more than 40 countries around the world. I'm Singaporean, Chinese. I grew up in Singapore, but for the last 30 years, I've been living and practicing in Hong Kong. I'm mid-50s. I'm about 1.8 meters tall. I have what used to be black hair, now gray. I wear glasses, and I'm wearing a typical dark suit, but with a red tie today.
Oh, great. Thanks, Milton. Nicolas.
Hello, good morning. I'm Nicolas Hieronimus. I'm the CEO of L'Oréal, so the #1 beauty company in the world. Our head office is in France. We operate in 150 countries. I'm French, as you can hear. I've got brown hair, a blue suit and a tie, which I don't usually wear, but this was an important session. I'm 58, but I'm being told, I'm 59 actually, but I'm told that I look much younger thanks to the great products that I
sell. Of course. So, nice mic drop pitch.
That would be my description for today.
Yeah, we had to get a sales pitch.
We need some of that
of
samples down
yes.
from me.
It's really good to know.
Samples.
It's great to know we've got every age here. This is fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to give a very quick context and background to the geography of diversity because it's these four we want to hear from. There is no doubt the issue of diversity, equity and inclusion, I mean, it's here. It's so here now. And that's why to have these sessions, so many of them over the last few days, and to have CEOs to be here and leaders. One of the big changes that's happening is the shift to power. And I hope you panelists are going to talk a bit about that. I'm obsessed with the kind of statement, leaders make choices and those choices create cultures, right? And that's a John Amachi quote. And it's really important. Where does the DE&I agenda and the work and the values sit? We are now seeing that being taken out of just HR and being positioned in our boards and in the offices of our CEOs. So that's one big trend that's happening. Another big trend that we see is this move away from the siloed approach to diversity, equity, inclusion, where we have these competing silos of gender against disability and disability against LGBTQIA, and then intersectionality. This big word that has come up and is very relevant in our vernacular. But there's a tension in that. So how do we respect individual difference and yet be able to have, you know, universal respect for all? And then we have still the materiality of DE&I to our businesses, you know? I mean, it's coming up and we are hearing that. I'm still asked, because I'm a disability advocate as the founder of the Valuable 500, so what's the case for disability? And you're like, really? Are we still talking about the case? But it's still there and it's still relevant and we're hearing the rumbles of the backlash. But actually, and why we're here today, the biggest challenge, I think, for you as leaders and for all of us, so how do we manage global and local? How on earth in this very, very diverse world with different legislations and different regulations and different even understanding of terminology, how are we managing to do that? And if anything, that is the hardest and the greatest challenge of all. So even if you think about audio description, when I was doing audio description in the pandemic, there are certain words I can't use or shouldn't use. I shouldn't use age sometimes. I shouldn't talk about my pronouns sometimes. So that's in itself an example. We're all here from how many different countries? We're speaking English. So this is very different. When I started my work, I can say that in America, diversity and inclusion was gender and race. So this is really difficult, and this is the one we want to unpack, and this is not going to be a nice, polite conversation, but jump in. So we're going to start with a kind of, not a prepared question, but an area to which each of the panelists have an interest in so that we can get a good, diverse approach. And I'm going to go to Ebru first, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because you have a passion about gender representation in fields where women are not necessarily have high levels of participation. And engineering girls of Turkey is something that you're very passionate about. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And secondly of all, I know you want to scale it now outside Turkey to other countries. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Definitely. And first of all, we got the Lighthouse Award, so I'm very happy about it. Because after 7 years, this is kind of a sign that we are doing something right. I mean, we delivered and we did this Turkish Women Engineers project. And today somebody recognizes this. I mean, thanks to World Economic Forum for that. So I'm a civil engineer with an MBA. I come from a family of engineers. My father, my mother, everybody in our family are engineers. My mother was the only girl, only woman in mechanical engineering at his time, and she got married to my father. The thing is, why I started the project, because we can hire engineers. I mean, women should present in every level of business. It's not an equality issue. It's a power issue. It's a human capital issue. I mean, in today's world, we're talking about hiring people, bringing diversity, how we can sort out all these crazy world problems, complex problems. We can only do that with women participation. I mean, we cannot let 50% of the population out of the game and try to sort out these complex problems. So we started in Turkey 7 years ago, being an engineer. We started with pilot. We corrected we got the feedback of the women who were in the project. And then after 7 years, we scaled it, and we have now disabled women engineers. Normally, I mean, we were looking for why there are no disabled people who choose engineering. They don't. I mean, when they're disabled, they feel like the engineering is out. So we found girls like that.
So you have disabled females?
Yes, disabled female
intersectionality, yeah.
women computer science, when she started, she came and she was so introvert. She wasn't speaking to anyone. After 4 years, she became an extrovert. And then she's like, I asked her, what are you going to do? She said, oh, I'm having a couple of options, work options. I'm just evaluating them. I'm like, okay, this is what we want. I mean, we really want to create self-confident women, not only in Turkey, but all around the world. And then, as you said, this is a global problem, but we have to address local. Then we went to Kuwait. Kuwait has other problems. I mean, in Turkey, we give scholarships because we have a lot of girls coming from poor backgrounds. It's like even we have some girls who are under government care and they become engineers. And last week I got a letter from one of them, email, and she said, it's the first time I'm having an apartment all my own because she now have pursuing her career in engineering. And she's taking care of her own sister in her house. So this is really inspiring for me. We are in Kuwait now, and now we launch Global Engineer Girls and going to Macedonia and Kosovo, where there's high unemployment rates. And what we're going to do is we're going to create this big sisterhood of women engineers, and then they will probably will be changing the world with them. Because this is the thing, I mean, it's a prejudice thing. Like men think that women cannot be engineers, and this influences women, and they start to think that yes, I'm good in science and maths, but maybe it's better that I become a doctor. The families also like them to be doctors, because then maybe they get old and they take care of them. Or teachers, because it's an easier life, maybe they can get easily married. I mean, the cultures at one point come and to the same point. But now we are changing this, and you'll see a lot of successful women engineers all around the world. And the issue is, of course, we have to make an impact. So scale is important. We go to the countries where we work right now, but probably we'll take it from there. And with other private sector companies, organizations, governments, we work with UNDP, and many NGOs, we'll take it from there, and then we create a different world.
So it's this sort of kind of radical collaboration about how you can hope to scale that. It won't be just you on your own doing that scaling. You're going to need to have other organizations and stakeholders to make that happen.
Exactly. We already have many organizations in Turkey. For example, a petrochemical company who's hiring chemical engineers. So the issue is this. I mean, I choose engineering. It's a symbol. It's more women empowerment. Why I choose engineering? Because we have to give these women a career. I mean, this is a journey. We take them from the career path. We just bring them to project managers and then the CEOs and then the leaders. And these leaders come back and help the other girls in this path. So how we can do this, or how we can scale is with other private sector companies who are powerful to give these women a career path.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, if you touch these girls, they feel skilled. Now in Kuwait, we are building the airport. We put a lot of girls, women engineers in different areas. And you really see them, they're like flowers. The first day, they're very not confident because they don't know how to do. But after a year, they feel like, yes, I can build this crazy airport. They become very self-confident, and they become role models to the other women. So this is so you can only be what you can see.
Exactly. And then I'm going to come to you, Alex, and I know we discussed something prior to that, because you used the word powerful, Ebru. So powerful organizations.
Yes.
But the power in those powerful organizations, and how you scale something like what Ebru is speaking about, and the role of the leader in it and the power of that. But I mean, how do you create these cultures of belonging and safety when you have so much different historical or regional contexts that may clash? Like, how are you doing? I mean, you're talking about 40 countries.
Well, first, that's a very bold and inspiring example. I think the more the better, and having these platforms for that is great. You know, the simple answer is, you know, we all come from a series of historical, individual, family contexts. So I would go to the individual, not the fact that you're in a certain country or a certain identity. So to me, the mindset has to be first individuality versus identity, because you bring a number of identities in various situations over time, formed momentarily, situationally, that define who you are. And, you know, the notion of identities can be divisive, actually, and be counterintuitive to what you actually want to achieve. So, I mean, what I've seen work is that we focus on what's common around people. All people want to belong.
Yes.
You tell me someone who doesn't want to belong, they're not a human, right?
Exactly.
We're all in teams of teams, whether it's in a country, you're a citizen, or you're in a company. And you want to be inspired individually, and you want to be empowered in those teams. But what you're alluding to, and you mentioned it in your whole body of work, is This is about power. Representation leads to belonging. Belonging leads to
Yeah.
people that will stay, and therefore you have representation that this is the right place for me. That's your example. But power is about who's in the room, who's making the decisions, who's deciding who to get elected and promoted, who pays. And I'll give you one example. Like, you know, we've so many areas where there's underrepresentation and unfairness. It needs to be addressed to get the representation cycle right, the promotion, the retention, the inspiration, all up and down the chain of promotion, et cetera. You know, in the U.S., I mean, obviously gender equality, gender opportunity is very important for us. Every year we have leadership rotations. And we have a partnership, much like Baker McKenzie and some other services companies that might be represented in the audience. You need followership, and you need to believe that people will, you know, believe that you're ready. So what we do is, you know, have partners sound other partners. So who do you think about XYZ, Caroline, Ebru? Are they ready? What would you think they're really good at? In the past, it's been mostly, because of history,
Yes.
male sounders.
Yeah,
So
always.
a few years ago, I said, let's have all sounders, only female. And the males were saying, well, that seems a little unfair. And I said,
They
well,
always
welcome to the party. Welcome to their world. And,
complain.
you know, it's a way of conferring and transferring power in not only a symbolic way, a very material way, because its input goes to decision makers and you get a fairly good lens. But the mindset, number one, has to be individuals versus identities, in my
It's
view.
really interesting. I love that individual versus identities.
Because you mentioned also about intersectionality.
Yeah.
Well, individuality is a collection of intersectionality
of course.
identities. And you choose that. I mean, being
Yeah.
yourself should be good
Yeah.
enough. Full stop.
Yeah.
The other mindset piece that I would add from what I've seen is we have to move beyond DEI
Yeah, God, yes.
only, because it sets people up. There's a history behind it. Is diversity just statistics anyway? And most diversity is invisible, so to speak.
Yeah.
Race, gender, all the disability we talk
Yeah.
about. I like to talk about beyond DEI, ABC. Allyship, belonging, and culture. Allyship has to do with individual respect. Hearing and empathy about where the other person's coming from, not just, well, this is my experience, why are you getting into my world? So allyship's important. Belonging, again, the most human attribute. You want to be a part of a tribe, a social network, a country, a company, a group of people, a project, et cetera. And then C, you know, values lead to behaviors, lead to habits, lead to culture. And the people in this room have the power, people on this stage have the power
Yes.
in their companies and their countries that they touch to influence that culture. They can't dominate it or impose it, but they can certainly influence it. So those are two of the mindsets, I think, to sort of counter, you know, the whiplash against that we've seen on this topic around
and
the world.
the whiplash there. By the way, I'm just going to do a shameless pitch for you. Your book, Joy Works, I can see why you are the author of Joy Works.
God bless
but just, I'm serious. It's really important. Why not?
It is.
But that's treatable, ABC, as Oprah would say. But this thing about seeing herself in positions of leadership, right? It's so important. I just want to reference, we had a press conference last night, and we were launching a whole series of metrics around disability performance in business. And I have to say it was a great moment when Julie Tiegler of EY, who we had no idea was going to do this, in a press conference panel, said, I care about this issue of disability because I have a disability. And you know the way that it just stops. And just by that owning it, she's in a position of power, and by her doing that even into the room of people that were there, but let alone outside, just telling that story. And this issue is about bringing the stories and the stats to it. But I love this ABC piece, which is, it takes it just out of that tick boxing and statistical approach. Thank you. Milton, okay, so you've got the whole other bits and bobs from a law firm, okay, and as you say, you're not headquartered, so you're all over the world, and it's 40 countries. And look, this issue of regulation and legislation being so different, places in the world where LGBTQI is illegal, the word disability is not allowed to be used. How do you find points of commonality? How do you do that? Is it possible? What are you seeing?
It's possible but difficult. So first of all, thank you for letting me make the cut to get onto this panel.
I can't take that credit. But you know, you can pay me later.
But you know, so Baker McKenzie is not just a global firm with no head office. We are really a truly globally diverse firm. Among other things, you know, we have a partnership that I would say probably has the largest proportion of first-generation college goers. I myself am the first of my family to go to high school.
Okay.
So it's something which it's I think to quote my inclusion and diversity officer, Anna Brown, it's something that we feel in our bones.
Yeah.
But then, you can feel it in your bones, but how do you get organized?
Yeah.
How do you make it work? I think for us, it's, the fundamental tenet for us is our commitment to our team to be able to, for everyone to be comfortable and feel safe and be inspired to bring your authentic best selves to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's our commitment, to create that environment for everyone. And in turn, we ask everyone to be courageous and do that. And obviously tied closely with that is the need for us to build a working environment as diverse as it might be across our 40-something countries, that respects each other's beliefs and differences and builds bridges across people and communities and cultures. So when we look at this and we deal with different societal contexts, legal and regulatory environments, what we do is we developed a few years ago with the help of some very insightful consultants what we call an advocates and embassies approach. So in those, I'll take LGBTQ+, for example, in those countries where the conditions allow us to be open, to speak publicly, we 100% support our team members. We partner with clients, partner with others in the business community to advocate. In other environments where we can't, then we have the embassy approach, that that within Baker McKenzie, wherever you are in the world, even if outside our door there may be difficulties, within Baker McKenzie you can be who you want to be. So that's something which we use to try and help navigate some of this, but it is complex and we always have to look for opportunities to refine and improve it. I'll give you one example. Until very recently, in my home country in Singapore, we were not permitted, so multinational corporations were not permitted to support the Pink Dot, the annual movement to recognize LGBTQ+ in Singapore, unless you're a Singaporean national, and we have a mix of all those. So while that was happening, our Singaporean national team members were involved, but we held internal events in our office to promote the cause. And of course now, happily the Singapore government has changed those rules, and we're now openly part of all of that movement. So that's to give you one example.
Alan Joe from Unilever had the same situation when it came to Pride and in Indonesia. And I'd never heard of this description of the embassy approach. Who came up with this embassy, coined the phrase of it anyway?
I can't take credit for it.
Okay,
my colleagues,
should we give the credit to? I
would give the credit to my partner. He's retired now, Harry Small.
Okay.
Harry Small from a London office. A few years ago, in mid-2015, 2016, we were looking for ways. Harry is himself openly gay. He's very well regarded, and he worked with a number of our consultants with the support of our firm leadership at the time to develop this, because we knew that around the world this is going to be important for us to be able to stick to that core tenet, committing to everyone that you can bring your authentic best self to work.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Thank you. Nicolas, you're last but not least. With the brand, that beauty that moves the world, and I always think for everyone. And I mean, I have to disclose, I sit on the L'Oreal Diversity and Inclusion Council, so I get to see under the bonnet and I see what they do.
She's very challenging, I can tell you.
And I'm very proud to sit, to be part of it. But listen, is this whole DE&I, or I'm maybe moving to A, B, and C, but is this a Western kind of preoccupation, or is it seen as that? Or is that maybe, when you're looking at across L'Oreal, how are you doing this globally? How are you making this land and to have material relevance right across all the countries that you operate in?
Well, clearly when you're in beauty, diversity is at the heart of our business and of our duty. We operate in 150 countries in the world, and beauty is about allowing any individual to express their difference, their individuality, their personality, their intersectionality. So we work very hard on making sure that our brands, our products, our advertising, and I'll get back to that, displays diversity, encourages diversity, and represents all the forms of beauty in the world. I wouldn't say it was always the case. If I look back, I've been 35 years at L'Oréal. 35 years ago, our advertising was not diverse. Today, we are the 4th advertiser in the world, and we have to promote diversity in beauty, and that we are, very much determined to do it, and it's always progressing. We can always do better. Recently, we had a corporate campaign where there were not enough elderly people, mistake acknowledged, and we're going to change it. It's a constant pledge and a constant fight, and it's true internally, and it's true externally. Internally, of course, we're talking about gender parity. We have less problems. If I take out top 300 managers, 55% are women.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe in a couple of decades, the problem will be reversed. So we have this gender parity, gender diversity. We are working very hard around other topics. Disability is one. We are inviting our employees to come out on their disability. We have disability days because we know that these employees have a hard time working if they don't disclose that they are suffering from sometimes, as you say, many invisible problems. So internally, it's a big commitment. It's also racial diversity, which was an area where we could progress. Probably the first decisions that I made as a CEO was to bring less Europeans and more diverse profiles in my mancoms with Indians and Mexican, people from Tunisia, and that was something that was very important to me. But I'd like to go back to the product part and the consumers.
Yeah, because this is where it's starting to happen, like AI. How is all of this going to be, how are you doing?
We are working on beauty for each. And first of all, it's great because it's a major source of innovation.
Yeah.
Of course, you all know that diversity generates more creativity, different profiles, different perspectives, creates new ideas. But even working on addressing the very specific needs of, high levels of melanin skins, dark skins, or women wearing veil and having to wear a foundation leads us to innovate. We developed incredible non-transfer foundation thanks to just to avoid women wearing veils to stain it. We developed products that are preventing rich melanin-rich skin to have darker spots that were initially created in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia and Thailand, and now they're worldwide success because everybody's suffering from the sun damage. So it's a source of innovation, it's a source of creativity, and that it's true that looking ahead, AI will help us develop even more tailor-made products that include even more people as long. That's a whole other topic.
Yes.
As we work at avoiding the biases
Exactly.
within the algorithms, but I guess that would request a totally different and longer debate. Maybe there's one thing I'd like to say is, and this is not the advertising part, it's just something I'm so proud about. Because I was just giving examples of innovations that were generated by diversity and that led to big business success. But sometimes you do things just for making sure that you're truly including people. And we just come back from the CES in Las Vegas, and we launched a device which I brought. It's called Hapta, which is a device that is designed to allow I just have the statistic for the USA. There are over 40 million people in the USA that have motor disability in their hand that cannot use. They have tremors, and they can't use products, and they feel excluded. And we created this device, which is here, with the help of Verily.
I presume we're all getting one, right?
No, unfortunately, it's the only prototype, but it's.
Yeah, seriously.
No, it's a great thing because it's a device that's been created with people from Verily, and it's you can, even if you move, the thing stays stable, and you can apply lipstick, even whatever your constraints. We've just launched it or presented it. It's a fantastic success. I can tell you it's not going to be, and it's not meant to be, a financial success, but the messages we received internally and externally from all these men and women who felt they were left aside by the beauty industry was extremely moving. So that's why I wanted to share.
But hold on, the brand that this is on, is that Lancôme?
Is it Lancôme?
So this is a positioning piece. So I want you all to start thinking of questions because I want to just pick on this for the panelists. This is with Lancôme. You're all CEOs. This is about positioning this in a luxury brand. That is a positioning. This is important. If you think about that and the messaging that that's giving out, right? And by the way, I don't agree with you. I think this is going to be able to be used for lots of reasons. I can't see my eyes when I'm putting mascara on, so my hands shake. You'll be surprised how relevant this is. So you may not have begun it that way.
Yeah.
And also you did it in partnership with Google. And what I want to say is, years ago, would you four have imagined sitting on this panel discussing this in this context? Because I know all of you are here because you genuinely want to be here and because you are genuinely leading this space. You're not doing it to look good. But this materiality piece, is your leadership in these spaces helping your organizations attract and retain the best talent, deliver to your customers and get more, make your shareholders feel happy? Does it even affect the investors? Can I just ask, just throw in answers. Are you seeing the materiality in the business, and where, if? Gen Z as well. So,
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to know,
No,
please.
Definitely. And first of all, you don't do it, they don't stay with you. I mean, the younger generation, Gen Z, they want to work with companies that have values, whether it's around sustainability, around diversity, around sharing your success, and of course they do acknowledge the efforts we're making. And it's you were talking about the West. It's very strong in the USA. But it's spreading across the world.
Does it
But
change?
Caroline, it's not
Yeah.
only the investors, but it's more your colleagues, the people
Yeah.
you're working with, the work environment. I mean, you have a book on that. So I feel like people find substance in it and they're more happier. I'm happier to be a part of this company who cares about B&I. I mean, that's very important.
What about you for
Well, I was
clients?
gonna say, there's a huge connection between, and especially in a service-based business,
Yeah,
or a people-based business, and the most renewable energy in the world has to be people energy, right? Every day you
Yes.
got to get up. It's the individual purpose. Am I working on products that matter in a company that believes that this matters and that I believe in? And that intersection of your individual purpose with the institutional purpose gives you joy, okay, purpose. Joy is purpose activated. That's
Yes,
how I look at it.
purpose-driven,
But, if you are a customer and you have a group of companies or products that come with that passion and that ingenuity and innovation from diversity, you're going to be a loyal customer. I mean, that matters. People see the excitement in your product.
But does that
Yeah.
change across the geographies?
It changes to some degree, but really, I agree with Alex. It comes back to the purpose of the organization.
Okay.
So for us, it's not just, as Nicolas says, not just a good thing to do. It's an important thing to do for your corporate values. For talent to want to be part of our firm because we are a truly global, inclusive, belonging firm. For the client base that we have, which is really spread out across the world, multicultural, for the work that we do for them, it is an important part of what we bring to our client service mindset. But I think one other thing I'd like to mention is also people want to join an organization where you don't just have the tone from the top, you have the leadership that walks the walk, right? Because we can all say a lot of good things. I mean, I think one of the things you asked me whether it's difficult. It is difficult. We set ourselves target a few years ago to reach for our partners, for our business professional leadership, and for our partner leadership, gender parity target by 2025, what we call 40-40-20, 40% women, men, and 20% women, non-binary. It's been hard to get there because in applying this around the world, we have to look at sometimes talent pool limitations. The talent pool for female senior partners or business professionals in Japan is a lot thinner than it is in the US.
Yeah.
But what do you do then? You still hold firm to that and say, okay, if we can't do this now, well, first of all, look at underlying reasons to address why that's the case. So we put in place programs like what we call our LIFT program, which is a mentorship sponsorship program for young women partners to get into to have the leadership exposure and sponsorship and the skill set development to get into those, to get the opportunity to be considered. We have a RISE program for senior associates who are also wanting to make a career with us and having to face some of these difficult choices between if I become a partner, what does this mean for me? Well, you can. Let's talk about what it means for you. But when we have all those things, you still want to see that you put the meat behind it and that you try and lead from the top. So I'm very proud to say that right now we have probably the most diverse global executive committee in our history. We have 50% women. The soundings committee that you talked about is chaired by a woman, our equivalent, majority women. We have multiple nationalities in our executive committee. We have our first ever Asian global chair. We have our first female COO. We have our first black CFO, first black CXO member. So we're in a good place now, but it doesn't stop there.
No.
You know, you don't want to. We need with this to then say, okay, and how do we help everyone else see that this is what's needed for the whole organization
and for all of the business system together. Questions, anyone? Because like I could sit in here and talk to them all day. But if there's anything online and anybody wants, would you just shout and use your voice?
Caroline, you have a question here in the front row.
Thank you, Nicolas.
Yes.
Question.
Hi everyone, I'm Luana Genot from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. I work with inclusion and diversity in Brazil and Latin America, and hopefully we can help our region to waste less talents and increase the sense of belonging we were talking, and which is ultimately also connected to more opportunities and economic growth. We know that in so many different regions, it's forbidden to collect data, for example, in terms of race, ethnicity. You know, France is one of these places, and so many different regions in Asia. I'm just curious about how can we establish, for example, common guidelines in so many different countries for affirmative action, and to get to know your visions, and how can we hopefully can also invite governments to push that forward, because we need that data to actually see the whole framework we are navigating in. So if you can explore a little bit of that, and I think it would be very promising to actually have a global inclusion agenda as we have the World Economic Forum, so we could exchange more ideas and go deep, but also not only establish common guidelines, but also respect each context and individual needs as well, balance both, which is also my concern and my goal. But I would like to navigate on that.
No, can I just say, we're all hopping to get into yes, yes, and yes. And actually, this is when it's really hard to be a moderator, because we've just done something around disability. But I can see Alex getting in. Go for it. Go for it.
Maybe I'll say something about France, because I'm the French guy.
No, whoa. This is brilliant. Okay, you first. I will get everybody in. Go, Alex.
I'll give a small contribution. Well, I mean, there's two issues. One is the sort of diagnosis of the baseline, and there's also the solutioning. On the diagnosis, you got to start with a baseline. And what we do, and I've seen other companies do, is you have to ask. A simple question, do you feel like you belong in your company, in this company, first? And you can cross-tab that against statistics, the country, the level, the gender identification, et cetera. Now, so you have to do that on a regular basis, show that the company cares about, first, where are we? Is this workforce engaged? Do we feel this is an unfair workforce? That's one thing. Second piece is solutioning. There's a whole range of inspirational examples, lighthouse examples.
Yes,
you won the Lighthouse on inclusion councils and lead by example and representation.
These are all symbols, ways of.
But that has to be inclusive in terms of the solution, because you can't have the solutions being made by the underrepresented group. It's not just what is female about the solution, it's what's white about the support or the male about the support. Right, it's a little bit of both. So it's a team effort on that. That's my piece.
No, I'll be sure on France. You're right. It's forbidden to have racial statistics. However, you know, there are many companies, including ourselves, that are advocating for change, and we are part. And actually, the current French government is pretty open. We are part of a pilot with the French government to see how we can make this evolve. So I hope. It happens. In the meantime, there are ways, and of course, we have lots of, as you were saying, we have lots of employee surveys where we ask them whether they feel they have equal chances of success, whatever their origin, background, characteristics, and there are ways to know, but it's true that it would be so much easier if we could measure. I mean, France, to take the example, has been one of the first countries to pass a law that forces every board to have 50% women, and it happened. So sometimes it's good to be able to measure so that you can improve. So we're on it. But as a global company, thank God there are many countries where we can make these analysis and improve. And this is an area where there's always a way to do better.
And
I was about to say, Ebru, would you come in to give from...
I mean, from the we are taking a local project to global, and we are trying to address a global problem. But the way we address in every country is different, because every country has, at the micro level, have different issues. So I think the best way to make a global problem, or to sort out a global problem at the local level, is to be able to collaborate over there with the government, with the private sector, with the NGO, with the institutions and the university. And the way that we do is we tackle the problem, but at one point the government has to address this in the policy level as well. But this is going to be local as well. I mean, it's a little bit difficult, but I mean, eventually the problem is there, but the address at the micro level will be different.
Because the issue of data, and we need the data to manage, you're absolutely correct, and it's just how do we get it. And I do think this issue is, and there are so many countries where protected characteristics, disability, like in my example, you know, you can't ask. So we are starting to see organisations, am I right, having the opportunity for anonymously disclosing or having to self-ID, but it's anonymous. But the issue is, if you aren't there in that question, then you can't answer it. But that is some way we're seeing some of the behaviours around the corpus working, because legislation, so you have to have a choice. You have to have that choice to be anonymous. Anybody else? I definitely can't see anybody else.
I have a question.
Great, thank you. And can just somebody tell me, how are we doing on time? Because I can't.
It's 3 minutes 55 to the end.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I'll be quick. My name is Gopal Patel. One of the things I do is I advise the United Nations on how to work with religious and spiritual communities on the Sustainable Development Goals. And my question is, you talk about where is the level of conversation in terms of religious engagement in the DEI conversation globally when we want to bring our employees to bring their full self into the workforce?
Great question. Who wants to take it?
I'm not sure I've understood the question. Maybe.
Religion and faith. Where is that when we look across how we're describing and what characteristics and what experiences are included in the diversity, equity, inclusion agenda?
Okay.
Is faith turning up? Religious faith? No?
No, I mean, we have.
No.
If we take our company, people have the possibility to live their faith the way they like it or they want it. Of course, there are countries where typically we have big subsidiaries in the Middle East, and there are prayer rooms there which are less requested in Japan. Okay. So it's very local. But the overall spirit is to allow employees to live their faith.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I guess just to pick up on that, I think we again, because we operate across so many markets, goes back to what I said at the start. It is about respecting people's views, their beliefs, and their faiths, and all that as well. I think what I would say is on top of the obviously the freedom for people to practice their own religion everywhere else, in many parts of our firm, we are doing more to just share and educate people about this. I was visiting our Toronto office not long ago, and the D&I committee there regularly takes the opportunity of religious festivals happening during the year to do a particular piece, and they have a discussion with the whole office about what is the significance, why is a particular, just so that there's education and acceptance and understanding of each other.
Thank you. I know we're coming to the end, and I want to get a mic drop moment from each of them, though I think we have a few already. I'm going to ask you, as the leaders that you are, and taking away some of the conversations that we've had here, if you've one thing that you could do in the leadership position that you have today, just one thing to sort of unblock the system or remove a barrier or an opportunity, what would it be? And I'm coming to you first, Milton.
Ooh, okay.
And you just get one, and you have to do it quickly.
Okay, quickly. I would want to set ourselves a target to move to ABC.
Lovely. And to the Mr. ABC and Joy Man, you get one.
I think, you have to meet people where they are. We all have blind spots, and if you don't think you have a blind spot, that's your blind spot, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the precursor to attacking the power dynamic, improving ABC, allyship, respect for everything about everyone individually.
Thank you. Nicolas?
I've talked about the
internal diversity, equity and inclusion. I've talked about the role of a beauty company as a cultural influencer and promoting particularly the empowerment of women. There's a third area where we act already, but we can do more, is really fostering economic inclusion of women in underfavored area, either through our solidarity sourcing programs or through our educations. We have a Beauty for Better Life program where we teach young girls to be hairdressers, makeup artists in Africa. This is the other part of inclusion. Inclusion is not just about feeling good in a company, it's that we all live in the same planet, and we want to make sure that there are not people that are left aside, that are left behind by the crisis, and that's what we are working on with the L'Oréal Foundation particularly.
Thank you.
And in my sectors, in the fields that I'm active, I'd like to really change the prejudice view of the power, which is women cannot be engineers. I mean, we have to give women a chance to become successful engineers. And my duty is to create successful examples, role models that are super successful women engineers, so that we increase the number of women who are choosing engineers. So we have to increase the funnel availability so that the power will be very happy to choose from these women, so that we increase our women participation to the levels of L'Oréal, to the levels of Baker, McKenzie. I mean, there's a long way to go, but we'll be able to do it.
Thank you. I know we're out of time, and I just want to say, first of all, you're a fabulous panel, and thank you so very, very much. But we all, I think, are in this room because we believe inclusion is either for all or not at all. And we cannot have a la carte inclusions, and we can't use geography or different experiences to be reasons that we don't do it. I do want to say, I think your leadership, and having a conversation with you before I came in the room, I want to thank you, Ebru. I want to thank you, Alex and Milton and Nicola. I think you have to rush, if you might be around afterwards, but a huge thank you to you all. You are actually inclusive leaders, so thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Caroline.